Well, they say money can't buy you happiness, but it can buy you love, apparently, as well as getting your name on the top 100 most influential people of 2025. OMG, what is going on in this world? My gosh, there's so much to get into. When I just tell you, I just went down a rabbit hole of this new subpoena, as well as this whole flight deck. I found out some pretty interesting information. And yes, Katy Perry, maybe you did have to go to space in order to find love on Earth, because it's not every person on Earth that a nun says you have blood on your hands. If you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get into it in frame with Mandy Magnan. First, I just want to say happy Good Friday. Happy Friday. I hope you're having a great day. I wanted to be here yesterday, but I actually woke up with a little bit of a migraine. When I say little bit, I mean it was like a 7 or 8 on the migraine chart. And it was a crazy day, but I'm feeling a whole lot better. I'm actually having a great Good Friday, which is awesome, and I'm going to keep that energy throughout the whole day. It's going to be a fantastic weekend, but we have a lot to go over. So just to let you know what we'll be talking about today, we're going to get into a few things. Katy Perry, and then we're going to talk about this subpoena that has been found. Super shady. Super shady. What in the bleeping F in telenovela land is Blake Lively trying to pull? We'll talk about that. And then, yeah, let's just go straight away. Let's just go. I think there are some people still like missing the point about why there is so much outrage coming from the majority of people with this Blue Origin flight. It's not that y'all just want to spend your millions of dollars and go into space. If you want to go into space, if you want to do an 11-minute joyride, go and do it. Okay? I just saw a creator, a man, who made a video yesterday being like, you guys are so mad that they're not being relatable to you. They're not relatable. They're billionaires and millionaires. They don't have to be relatable. No one is asking them to be relatable. Okay? What the outrage is that they made a mockery yet again about woman empowerment, feminism, and they're trying to claim that this was one big step for women. Not only that, but they're calling themselves astronauts. That's what I think the outrage is about, is that they're doing it in the name of womanhood and women empowerment. And it couldn't be further from that. And why is that? Is because they made all these statements about, what did Katy Perry say? We're going to bring the ass in astronaut. If I could bring a glam team up with me, I would. What? There are actual astronauts who have trained for years, a minimum of 10 years to take a trip. This was a joyride. And to have even Gayle King be like, well, have you been up in space? Have you? No, we haven't. Duh. It was just so completely tone deaf. And if you guys want to go and take joy rides, go for it. Go and spend your money that way. No one cares, but stop doing it in this big showmanship that it's about women empowerment. Okay? Ew. Gross. And then for Katy Perry to come back down, kiss the ground, kiss the dirt, and be like, I'm just so connected to love, and you just never know the love that you have to give and that you have to receive until your day of launch. What? What was so important that you guys did up there? You're saying, oh, you did studies and you're advancing technology and you were doing all of this stuff. What, Gayle King? So that Jeff Bezos can start putting pollution and garbage into the atmosphere? That's what this joyride was. And when did any of those studies happen in that 11 minutes? When? Like, so many questions about, just stop. If you wanted to just go take a ride up there, go take a ride up there, okay? But stop making us all try to live in Delulu land with you that this was some huge women empowerment move and that It's this huge thing. And then there's also a comment that was like, oh, I wish they treated men the way they're treating women. Yes, don't you remember the submarine that went down with all men? How was that treated? This isn't just because you're against this. The way they presented the Blue Origin flight, the mockery they made of it, okay, doesn't mean that, again, you're anti-woman. It's like not believing Blake Lively, oh, you're against women. And now if you don't like the Blue Origin, you're against women. It's like no matter what, they're like, stop it, okay? And Miss Katy Perry, okay? You went to war, a court battle, a strenuous court battle for years and years and years against nuns. Against nuns, where one of the nuns sadly died outside of the courtroom because you just needed to buy that house for $14.5 million. In 1972, the Sisters of the Immaculate Heart of Mary pooled their money to purchase the property. They purchased a French-style chateau that was designed by the architect Bernard Maybach and built in 1927. It includes 8 acres, more than 30,000 square feet of living space, and an adjoining house of prayer that's still used by the local clergy. According to the New York Times, the sisterhood purchased the property from a businessman, Daniel Donahue, after the death of his wife, he was in mourning, and they actually paid $600,000 at the time to purchase it, and he even helped them pay for it. He just didn't want to be there anymore because he couldn't get over the sadness and the memories of his wife. When the nuns first took over the property, they started with 52 nuns, and then over the decades it dwindled down and they ended up with 5 nuns remaining, and they were forced to leave the property. Allegedly that they were forced to leave in 2011 because there was some deals being made that they were not privy to by the archdiocese to sell the property, and they were going to be selling the property to Katy Perry for $14.5 million. Sister Catherine Rose Holdman quoted, "We had to do what we were told. I think it's because that they were trying to sell our property. They had been trying for years, even when we lived there, but none of us wanted to leave." So even though they didn't want to leave, their relocation was kind of part of the property dispute because they felt that the property belonged to them, obviously because they bought it, but the archdiocese was trying to take it away from them and was mistreating it for years and years and years. So eventually when the Archbishop, Jose Gomez, agreed to sell the property to Katy Perry, the sisterhood was obviously very concerned, immediately concerned, because they felt like, first of all, they weren't privy to any of the conversations of selling, and also that they wouldn't be seeing any of that money. However, Katy Perry made a cash deal that she would pay them in cash. So Gomez accepted her $14.5 million cash offer sometime in 2013 or 2014, but Holzman and Callanan, the sisters, 2 of the 5 last remaining sisters, refused to sell to Katy Perry. They researched her and found a video of Katy Perry joking about selling her soul to the devil in exchange for success. Even mentioning that she would sell her soul to Satan is against our principles and beliefs. Katy Perry represents everything we don't believe in. It would be a sin to sell to her. The sisters, during their research also of Katy Perry, found her performance of Teenage Dream at the 2015 Super Bowl halftime show and quoted, "Well, I found Katy Perry and I found her videos, and if it's all right to say, I wasn't happy with any of it." In 2015, May of 2015, the sisters met with Katy Perry in order to, for Katy Perry to kind of like win them over. And they said that she was very nice. She sang a rendition of "Oh Happy Day" and then showed them a tattoo of Jesus on her wrist. Okay. Although the sisters did say that Katy Perry was nice, she came in and sang and told us why she wanted the property, they were not convinced and still did not want to sell to her. So acting under the belief that they alone own the covenant, since they paid for it with their own money, they acquired it decades before, they sold it to another person for actually more money. They sold it to a restaurant owner and developer, Dana Hollister. Hollister made an offer directly to the nuns for $15.5 million and $100,000 up front. She even said that they would turn the property into a boutique hotel and that some of the profits would always go to nonprofit organizations. The nuns like this because they, Miss Dana Hollister agreed to still keep the property open to the public. Well, the Archdiocese and Katy Perry both sued Hollister, who bought the property for $1 million more. They claim that the sisters have been taken advantage by the Hollister transaction and that in July of 2015, mere months after Hollister bought the Convent, a judge invalidated her purchase. He ruled that Hollister could continue to live there as long as she paid the sisters $25,000 a month in rent while the lawsuits are still pending. It gets worse because Katy Perry also sued Miss Hollister, who bought the property, for interfering with her purchase. According to Katy Perry's filing in her court documents in September of 2015, she claims that Hollister took advantage of vulnerable elderly nuns who was convinced to oppose the Roman Catholic Church. Hollister did have a comment to say, saying, "It's interesting she has all of this girl power and she's running over a woman and 5 nuns." After years of fighting to purchase this covenant in 2017, Katy Perry won the right to purchase the covenant. A Los Angeles Superior Court judge ruled in favor of the Archdiocese, clearing Katy's path to purchase the estate. They found that the sisters did not have the authority to sell the property to Hollister. The Pope did not consent to the sale of the property to Hollister, and there was no written approval from the Holy See or the Archbishop. Allegedly, if any sale exceeds $7.5 million, that it has to be approved and final approval has to come from the Vatican. In September 2017, it was reported that the Vatican wouldn't approve Katy Perry's purchase until she found a replacement for the property's house of prayer. During this time that Katy Perry won her case, Hollister, who originally bought the property from the actual owners, the sisterhood, was ordered to pay the Archdiocese $3.47 million in attorney fees and Katy Perry's company $1.57 million in fees. She was also found guilty of malice and fraud, so a second phase of the trial was set to determine if either group should be awarded more money in punitive damages. Hollister declared bankruptcy shortly after. Why are we fighting with nuns for their property, Katy Perry? In March of 2018, one of the nuns died in a courtroom while supporting Hollister. As they continued the battle with Hollister, Holzman and Callahan both accompanied Hollister to bankruptcy court in order to show their support. The sisters still backed Hollister even after she lost. And they said, "Katy Perry, please stop." 89-year-old Holzman told Fox while standing outside the Los Angeles courtroom, "It's not doing anyone any good except hurting a lot of people." Hours later, she collapsed and died during the court proceeding. On Saturday, 81-year-old Callahan told the New York Post that Katy Perry has blood on her hands. What an amazing role model for women empowerment. Amazing. Thank you so much for finding all of that love that you needed the day that you launched. It could have been helpful back then, definitely. But I'm happy that you're now so full of love and all of the things that you did in the space during that 11 minutes. How amazing. It was really a step forward. You held a flower, you took a bunch of selfies, and let me see the scientific facts that we learned or anything that we learned in space was your set list. Oh my gosh, just amazing. Some good news coming today for Canadian actor Ryan Gosling. Yes, the other Ryan, the good, uber talented family man, amazing dude, great actor, uber talent, uber sexy, uber everything. Ryan Gosling is to set in the first Starfighter. He is going to space. He is set to be in the new Star Wars set out in 2027, the film, so they have 2 years to do it. This was amazing news. My mom actually texted me this morning and was like, "Yo, Ryan Gosling." And I was like, yeah. You know, until you find out that it's being directed by Sean Levy, the same director of Deadpool and Wolverine. but still so excited for Ryan Gosling, right? How do you guys feel about this? Is it too soon still for Sean Levy since he's so wrapped in the Deadpool and Wolverine? It ends with us. These people are just moving on with their lives. Like, what? Well, money can't just buy you a trip to space. It can also buy you a title of a Titan. Blake Lively named Time's 100 most influential people in 2025. OMG. Now, I'm not saying this whole list is made up of good people who have great influence. No, of course not. Elon Musk and I think Donald Trump is on there. So, like, we all know that. But the reason why they did it was to tell us that she is such a great person. She's a Titan. They're literally trying to throw in our face that we don't know that Blake Lively is a racist, allegedly, and that she's some influential person. The only thing that she's influenced in 2025, and the year is not even over, is that the internet people and a community of people getting together and actually standing up for what is right and the truth. That's the only influence she had. And honestly, here's my advice. Go away. Disappear for at least 6 months. Give us some time. Take a time out. They're literally shoving down our face, okay? Shoving it down our throats that Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively are great people. They're good people. They're amazing people. We know the truth, okay? So just take a little time out, take a pause, leave us alone. Do you know what it's like? Like, live low key. Have you ever heard that word? Low key? Gosh, if it's not promoting your hair care line still and your Betty Boos, and then now another simple favor straight away to now being named a Titan. Ugh, I can't. It's just so gross. This just proves that it's like money can literally buy you anything. How rewarding is it to have an award that you paid for? And let's just see why. Let's just see why she got this Titan Most Influential People award, okay? Well, would it shock you to know that also Scarlett Johansson is on the list? Well, Mr. Ryan Reynolds could never let Scarlett Johansson be on the list without Blake Lively being on the list. That would just be crazy. That would be too much. How could they ever handle that? No, of course, Blake Lively is on the list, the same list that Scarlett Johansson is on. And of course she got a Titan. Why not? Alongside Serena Williams, Lorne Michaels, Simone Biles, and Mark Zuckerberg. Yeah, Blake Lively fits right up there with all of those people, of course. And not a shocker that also, guess who is going to be presenting? Ryan Reynolds. And what's so strange to me is because they got a woman of color to say the little blurb and present Blake with this prestigious reward that she bought. And it's quoted, "I don't know Blake Lively on the red carpet or the Met Gala. I never watched Gossip Girl. The Blake Lively I know is a philanthropist and a student of our country's most intractable problems. She and her husband, Ryan Reynolds, reached out in 2019 to make a contribution to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. I had been getting a few of these calls as our work fighting against voter suppression and police brutality was receiving national attention. I'm always curious about the kind of research famous people do before they make that cold call to offer their support. The ones I have remained in relationship with are those who, like Blake, really did their homework. I admired immediately her curiosity and her sincere work to understand the conditions that shape this country. I remember an early conversation in which she expressed frustration that so much of our nation's history was not part of the instruction she had received as a student. Her commitment to filling those gaps and becoming the most fully informed and prepared citizen is what I appreciate most about her. Blake is a serious person. She's a risk taker, and she's committed to moving this country forward for her children and for mine." So Blake made a donation in 2019, and in 2025, she's on the list for a Titan for most influential people in the top 100. Make it make sense. And just while we're on this topic, I wonder why they made that donation. Could it be because they were apologizing for getting married on a plantation? I mean, it had nothing to do with her website of the antebellum of the South. Oh, it had nothing to do with her admitting in a video of doing blackface. Oh, it had nothing to do with her using a man of color as a footrest to promote something. In 2019, she made a donation. In 2025, she got the award or reward or whatever the frig. I mean, my gosh, you really can't make this up. You really, really, really can't make this up. They could have said something else. They could have just not even told us that part of the information, because 6 years later, oh my God. This is so bought. My gosh, the PR, B613 and Ryan Reynolds are working overtime to defend Blake and to force feed us that she is a good person. She is a serious person. Okay. And it's extremely interesting to note that everybody around the world knows that something's happening with Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Whether you're in the now of it and researching it and talking about it and you've read all the lawsuits or not, or you're just watching headlines or whatever your scope is or your knowledge of the situation, you know that she is involved, and everyone thinks that it's just this sexual harassment claim against Justin Baldoni, that she was repeatedly sexually harassed on the set of It Ends With Us, and she's suing Justin Baldoni because she spoke up against said sexual harassment and was smeared against for speaking up. That's pretty much like the, Cole's notes of it. Cole's notes. Anyway, the notes of it, right? But nowhere in this article, and I'm talking about everybody knows it, okay? I don't know how much you know about it or whatever. Everyone knows that there is a situation. Not ever is it mentioned, not even once, about anything about the ongoing situation about It Ends With Us. Kind of strange, but not surprising. We're all just going to see this and completely forget that she's in a legal battle right now. A war. Girl, you are in a battle. We're just going to see you in this, and it's going to do the magic wand thing, and we're all just going to forget, right? You know what? Yeah, all of the things I know about Blake Lively and all of the things I've learned, do you know what? She is a really good person. She is a serious person. Well, Blake Lively has posted on Instagram about this amazing accolade, saying it's an honor to be acknowledged on the Times 100 list for 2025, to be written about by the great Sherilyn Flynn, who did the little blurb I just read, is not something I take lightly. Her work has shaped our nation, who she is as a human, woman, mother, leader, fighter, healer, empath, risk taker, and dream maker, has shaped my heart and also my stamina to never stop believing in a future that's better and safer for everyone. Thank you at Time, and thank you at Sherilyn Phil for one of the most surreal and meaningful moments of my life in this honor. My 10-year-old self is pretty blown away right now. Am I going cray-cray, or is this absolutely delulu? This is unbelievable. Like, with everything happening, with everything coming out about Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, before this whole It Ends With Us movie, before It Ends With Us even came out, I didn't know anything about Blake Lively. I followed Justin Baldoni. I have been following him since Jane the Virgin. I have been following him, okay? I knew nothing. If someone would have asked, like, who is Ryan Reynolds married to, I wouldn't have even have known. Like, I had no idea about this woman. And now everything that I know about her is so gross. It's like mean. It's so mean. And now that I know everything, even, okay, forget her past, forget all of her stuff, forget all of the decades of at least 15 years of, like, absolute mean girl, bitter, just cruel, okay? Just what I know about the end, It Ends With Us and all of the stuff that she pulled on that set. Nobody should act like that. No star, no talent, no actor should ever act the way that she was on the set. To take over the edit, take over wardrobe, have people fired, not show up, extend sets by weeks. I mean, and now to get this, I guess there are things that still surprise me. Really. And talking about surprising, let's talk about subpoenas, shall we? Buckle up, because this is going to be a rabbit hole. I don't even know where to start, because I've kind of been researching for the last 24 hours about all of this information, but I'm going to present it just as I present it, and I hope it tracks, I hope it follows, but there is a lot to get into. The subpoena, I had mentioned in the last episode, a lot of news was buzzing around that the subpoena was fake or it came from another lawsuit with Ryan Reynolds. Remember, he was being sued by an artist because anyway. That turned out not to be true. The dates just didn't line up. Well, guess what? The subpoena has been found. Brian Friedman, Wayfair parties are aware and have made a statement. And I'm going to prove that this subpoena has to do with Blake Lively and other parties that are involved. Oh my gosh. Let's get into it. I have the actual subpoena and the dates. Yay! And the dates, okay? They're very important. Wowzers. I guess the best way to start here is to start with Blake Brown. Blake Brown was only originally filed for her trademark application on August 2nd of 2024. And why I think Blake was so irate and angry that her hair care line didn't take off and that her reputation, I don't think it has anything to do with her reputation, people not liking her, etc., etc., etc. I think she needed Blake Brown to take off. I think she needed the hair care line to take off, because if you see what else she trademarked under goods and services, it was way more than hair care lines. It's right at the bottom. It's for, yes, hair preparation, shampoo, etc., etc. But then there's eye creams, day creams, foundations, hair lighteners. I mean, there's an array of stuff. Blush pencils, perfume, fragrances, colognes. I mean, she wanted Blake Brown to be the thing, the it thing. So when the hair care line didn't take off, I'm sure, this is alleged, this is in my own mind, there's probably something with the contract there that they need this to do X amount of dollars to succeed, or this needs to succeed in order for them to branch out into all other things. And now let's talk about Vanzan Incorporated. Vanzan Incorporated is an corporation by Ryan Reynolds. Yes, Ryan Reynolds. It was incorporated in September of 2010. It says that its dissolution date was January of 2013, and that there was a lot of, we'll get into it, but a lot of branches, and the main branch was in Delaware. And as you see here, it says inactive directors and officers, but Blake Reynolds, when does she go by that name? Blake Reynolds is the chief executive officer. Blake Reynolds is the secretary. Blake Reynolds is the chief financial officer. Eric Binder and Eric Rothschild. So why Delaware? Very strange, right? But allegedly, Delaware is used as like a tax haven, and it does not tax income from intangible assets. So this corporation specifically would shift income to Delaware where it's not taxed. So shady. It's all so shady. But I guess this is like a big thing that like corporations do, I suppose. Check the date. September 2023. Vanzan Incorporated. Well, who puts their name as the officer name? Blake Reynolds. And she goes down and puts her name as Chief Executive Officer, Secretary, and Chief Financial Officer. But check the address, 888 7th Avenue. 888 7th Avenue is ML Management Partners. It's the exact same address. Allegedly, ML Management Partners is a New York-based talent management company, and Ryan Reynolds, an actor and businessman, share a common connection in that ML Management Partners manages Ryan Reynolds as a client. So what that's saying is Blake knew since September of 2023 this whole thing was being prepared in motion, because the timing of it is so very bizarre. And what do they do? Because everyone was wondering where this subpoena to Stephanie Jones came from. Where did it come from? Because nobody can find it, but allegedly the Daily Mail, Reddit, and Deadline. No one could find it. It wasn't under Blake, Ryan, It Ends With Us, Stephanie Jones, Leslie Sloan. Nothing. Because you know what they did? They filed a motion under Vanzan Incorporated. And when you look up Vanzan Incorporated, it is almost impossible to find anything about Blake Lively or Ryan Reynolds. It's saying it's a company that does imports and have done imports since 2019, and it's listed under another woman's name who is also the person who worked on the Taylor Swift music video. It's all very strange and bizarre, but it took a long time to find anything about Vanzan. And remember that address I showed you? That address from ML Management, from Eric Binder. Eric Binder is registered with several entities at that address, including Vision PR, Leslie Sloan's PR firm. And Vanzan has many similar named companies. They have some, yes, in Delaware, but then there's like a bunch of them listed under the same company, many different branches to this company. Here is the subpoena that was filed from Vanzan. It was dated on September 27th, 2024, which means Stephanie Jones, when she said that she was subpoenaed on October 1st, this makes a lot of sense. But this subpoena is so vague, bro. So vague. It's from Vanzan Inc. to Doe's 1 to 10 inclusive. Yeah, let's just read through it quickly. Just the nature of the claim. I did go through and highlight some of the most irrelevant parts, but it really is just very vague. And I don't really understand, because if there was supposed to be 10 Jane or John Does, why did only one person, Stephanie Jones, get the subpoena? And also, what contract did Stephanie Jones have with Blake Lively in order to turn over records? Because in the subpoena, what I get from it is that the Jane and John Does broke a contract with the plaintiff being Blake Lively, but Stephanie Jones didn't have a contract. It's just all very weird. It's very weird. Plaintiff Vanzan Inc. by and through its attorneys Manat, Phelps, and Phillips LLP. Very important to note that these are the same lawyers that Blake and Ryan are currently using in the lawsuit against It Ends With Us. This action arises out of ongoing campaign to damage plaintiff's business and plaintiff's reputation. Upon information and belief, the Doe defendants have certain contractual and confidentiality obligations and obligations of good faith and loyalty to plaintiff regarding plaintiff's business and reputation by way of oral promises and or written agreements. 3. Despite these obligations, the Doe defendants have undertaken direct efforts to contravene these arguments and instead have participated and may continue to participate in efforts to harm plaintiff, including by failing to act in plaintiff's best interest, taking actions to their personal benefit at plaintiff's expense, failing to freely communicate with plaintiff regarding matters that impact plaintiff's business and reputation, and disclosing to third parties, and failing to keep strictly confidential plaintiff's confidential and or private information. 4. This conduct constitutes breach of the agreements and obligations owed by the Doe defendants to plaintiffs and has caused significant reputational and economic damages to plaintiff. 5. This complaint seeks to recover compensatory... Sorry, the dog just came in. This complaint seeks to recover compensatory economic and non-economic damages, as well as other appropriate remedies against the Doe defendants, etc., etc. Upon information and belief, each of the Doe defendants are individuals and or companies that are domiciled, reside, and have the principal places of business and or incorporated or organized in New York. At this time, plaintiffs is not privy to the names or identities of the individual defendants, does 1 through 10, and therefore sues these defendants by such fictitious names. Upon information and belief, the doe defendants are employees, contractors, agents, or representatives of plaintiffs who have participated in and possibly conspired with others in a scheme to damage plaintiffs' business and reputation in breach of their oral and or written promises to plaintiffs and their duties of good faith and loyalty to plaintiff. This court has personal jurisdiction over the doe defendants who, upon information and belief, carried out activities against plaintiff in close connection with their contractual relationship with and related duties owed to plaintiffs. Upon information and belief, the doe defendants have certain confidential obligations to plaintiff regarding plaintiff's business and reputation arising from, among other things, oral or written agreements, duties of good faith and loyalty, the doe duties. Specifically, plaintiffs provided consideration to the doe defendants in exchange for the doe defendants' agreement to act in plaintiff's best interest, not take actions to their own personal benefit at plaintiff's expense, freely communicate with plaintiff regarding matters that impacted plaintiff's business and reputation, and keep strictly confidential and not disclose to third parties plaintiff's confidential and or private information. Upon information and belief, in or around August 2024, the doe defendants breached the doe duties by acting in a manner that was inconsistent with and damaging to plaintiff's business interest and reputation. It keeps going about how they believe that these doe defendants, 1 through 10, unnamed defendants, had a responsibility to the plaintiff to let them know, I guess they had like a good faith agreement to not like talk shit necessarily. You know what I mean? Upon information and belief, the doe defendants' conduct included but was not limited to failing to act in plaintiff's best interest, taking action to their personal benefit at plaintiff's expense, failing to freely communicate with plaintiff regarding matters that impacted plaintiff's business and reputation, and disclosing to third parties, and failing to keep strictly confidential plaintiff's confidential and or private information. Upon information and belief, in or around August 2024, the doe defendants disclosed plaintiff's confidential and private information to third parties. Who are they talking about there? Jed Wallace? Upon information and belief, in or around August 2024, the doe defendants became aware of and failed to inform plaintiff about conduct by third parties that had a reasonable likelihood of causing, was designed to cause, and did cause irreparable harm to plaintiff's business interest and plaintiff's reputation. I definitely think they're pointing to Jed Wallace, how they hired Jed Wallace and or Melissa Nathan to, do this untraceable internet smear campaign. Upon information and belief with regard to the foregoing, the doe defendants have acted with negligence and or reckless disregard of the impact that their acts and omissions have had and continue to cause monetary damage and irreparable harm to plaintiff's business interests, and plaintiff's reputation. There you have it. That's basically it. They just repeat all of the same things. It's only 11 pages, but they pretty much all say the same things. The second cause of action is breach of covenant of good faith and fair dealing. And then the third cause of action is faithless servant liability. And it is signed by, guess who? Samantha J. Katzy. Or Katz, Manott, Phelps, and Phillips LLP. Samantha. Okay. Samantha J. Katzy is Blake Lively's lawyer right now. And check this out. You can't even make this up. They have the same mole. They have the dog. But yeah, they had the same mole. That's so freaking, to me, that's just bizarre. Like, to me, that's just so strange. That's so strange. It's like very ironic casting for this telenovela, for real. And you can't even make this up because it gets more strange. Because when did this lawsuit get filed, this subpoena? When did it close? What happened? They were seeking monetary compensation. They were seeking all of these things. They wanted to get paid back for for what happened to them. But guess what happened? Notice of voluntary discontinuance without prejudice, December 19th, 2024. Plaintiff Vanzan Inc. by its undersigned attorneys hereby discontinues this action against defendants Does 1 through 10.
What?
This is so shady. This is so crazy because they did this in order for the Wayfarer parties to not find out about it, for everyone to not find out about it. Stephanie Jones, Leslie Sloan, Blake Lively, and Ryan Reynolds, I feel like all colluded and conducted this big plan. Because when was the CRD complaint first filed by Blake Lively? Not even 24 hours later, December 20th. On December 19th, they file to discontinue this motion because they already got what they thought they needed by Stephanie Jones. Absolutely unbelievable. I can't even, where I thought this subpoena was going and all the information I found out and how it's 100% tied to all of the Lively parties. Wow. But Brian Freeman has responded to all of this new tea. This is absolutely, absolutely wild. And it just shows you the type of people that they are and all of the things that they were trying to do behind the scenes to try to prove this false narrative. They had to literally use the courts, lie, do all of this shady stuff. I mean, it's just so gross. Will the text messages be thrown out? Probably not, because there's so much evidence in them, but for both sides, right? Brian Freeman, Justin Baldoni, and the Wayfarer party's lawyer says this appears to be an end around skirting the process to be able to secretly get these documents without having to give anyone notice. That would be an abusive process, and we intend to take all action allowable under the law. Brian Freeman goes on to say he had no knowledge about the lawsuit until dailymail.com contacted him for comment. Lively's team did respond to let the gaslighting begin in 3, 2, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Lively's lawyer said the newly uncovered lawsuit was common and entirely appropriate, and accused Brian Freeman of faux outrage. If it was so common and it was entirely appropriate, why did you guys try to hide it all this time, and why is it still hidden? Why was it still hidden when you know everyone was asking about the subpoena and y'all just said that we had an illegally obtained subpoena to get these records? It was legal, but nobody found it because you didn't use your real names. Crazy! I honestly don't even know what to say anymore about these people because it's absolutely bonkers. I just you lied? You put yourself as chief executive in September of 2023 when you were refused the dailies and they had Scarlett Johansson announced as her directorial debut by Wayfarer. When you refused to go back to work, you were already starting this. It is so unbelievably shady, whether it's legal, illegal, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But if this is the subpoena for Stephanie Jones, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely so evil and shady and gross. And again, if you have the truth behind you and you have the facts and the evidence and the truth, you don't need to be doing all this, girl. You don't need to be doing this. It just goes to show you the lengths that Ryan Reynolds and fake Lively will go through to salvage their reputation and their businesses and continue making hundreds of millions of dollars from people while doing things like this to other good people like the Wayfarer parties, like Jennifer Abel, like Justin Baldoni, like Jamie Heath, Steve Saroritz, Melissa Nathan, Jed Wallace, all to protect Blake Lively's, Blake Brown's reputation so she can continue to make money. When I started covering this story, I really was covering it by the ins and outs of on set, and I didn't really know where this channel specifically, this YouTube channel, was going to lead me. I was in a very messed up situation at the time myself, going through, just some craziness with work, which I've talked about, which included harassment. And this just kind of like was parallel to so many things that were in my life. And I didn't realize at the time where I would go with it. I just kind of started. And now that I know so much about PR and I know about the evils happening in Hollywood by the idols who were brainwashed to fantasize about and want to be like, and I'm just on a path now of like truth setting, like the truth will prevail, of just being on the right side of things and calling things out when you see them that are just so wrong. And these big power players and this manipulation tactic and these people that have just been stomping on the small guys and putting money in people's pockets to make them look good and have us not all know anything that's going on behind the scenes is so prevalent to me right now, and so important to continue to just stand up and speak my truth and call out bad things when I see it, you know? And unfortunately, this to me is just like so, ugh, it's just gross. The entire thing is just gross. And to like, I don't know where I'm going with this rant. The more I keep finding out and the more rabbit holes I go on and all the Easter eggs that we find just makes me really like, who are these people and why have they been able to get away with it for so long? Well, that's the episode today. I would love to end on like a really good note, like I always do, something a little inspiring and motivating. And I guess today being Good Friday, and I'm able to say that and not Shitty Friday, I guess what's coming to me today is just like, go through it. Go through it and get through whatever you're going through, okay? You have to go through it. And that could take days, months, years, decades. It can live in your body, pain, grief, regret, shame, but there are brighter days. And eventually, those things will shape you to the person that you are about to become. So just go through it. Have some patience with yourself and some grace with yourself. And really a lot more love. I say that all the time, but a lot more love. Do you know? Yeah, brighter days are ahead. And I think I'm a testament to that. And I can sit here today and be okay and smiling and show up, where other years on this weekend and specifically on this day, I couldn't even get out of bed, or I was drinking myself unconscious, crying, bawling my eyes out, angry, shameful, and things get better, and you have to believe that they will. Okay? So I hope you're having a great, great day. It is always a pleasure. I love you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.